Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Han Talks First. This is a Mando talk show. This is where we talk about last week's episode of The Mandalorian. And this one was a heavy one. It was a heavy hitter, so we got a lot to talk about and break down for you today. And again, I'm joined by my co-host of the Mando talk show, Dean. And Dean actually has a special announcement today that he wants to share here on the show. So why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what's coming for you and how can we get excited about it?
So I, based off of talking with Han here and a few other friends that just throughout quarantine, kind of looking for something else to do, I've decided to start a YouTube channel called The Four-Legged Gamer. It will be focused on basically anything nerdy. Could be, I'm a developer at heart, and I could talk about one upload I may do, maybe development and Bitcoin and how to build a robot, simplistically, to here's Star Wars, to here's an unboxing of video games. But the focus, Four-Legged Gamer, is I have two dogs that fortunately Han hasn't had to hear them in the background. But basically, they're going to be the focus of the show, and basically, they're going to be my actors throughout the whole thing. And you'll be able to see basically two cute dogs sniffing video games until I unbox them.
And I had the pleasure and the privilege to witness an episode before it's dropping, and it's a great idea. It's a good theme, good concept. I love the pets involved too. So yeah, as soon as you guys get the chance to go check that out, Four-Legged Gamer on YouTube. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see more stuff.
And the first upload will probably be next week. And it'll be about Dead Cells, which is a very good indie video game if you haven't played it.
Perfect. And if you guys want the link, I will be putting it in the description of the videos and the description of the podcast as well. So be sure to check out the descriptions below. Okay, so what we're all here to talk about. Let's just jump in, which is the episode titled "The Jedi," Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian. And we're gonna kind of just we don't have any notes really. We're just gonna kind of talk about it with you guys, just kind of free form. So I know Dean, you wanted to kind of touch on the opening first, which seems fitting. So what was your initial thoughts of this episode? And let's talk about the opening first.
Overall, the episode was by far the best of the season. I don't know if that's me fanboying or not for Ahsoka, but
No, no,
by
no.
far best episode of the season, probably best episode of the series. And I know that we're not done seeing Ahsoka yet, but the opening by itself, just watching Ahsoka wearing what we last saw her at the end of Rebels, which tells you Sabine is somewhere out there and they're separated. Um, but basically, just seeing Ahsoka wearing exactly what we left off with, and then every single time she was fighting, like, or not fighting because when she did the one-on-one at the end, but when she was fighting, like the armies and stuff, it felt like a horror movie. Like she was a monster, like in the mist. And it would all of a sudden she'd appear over there, and I was just waiting for the Wilhelm scream going, like off on the side, and just hearing that in random places. I was really hoping for that, but it was just, they made her feel like a good monster, but like
Yeah.
it felt a very Japanese Western feel, how she had to jump over the walls and the town and the way that was laid out. But it was just, the opening was just phenomenal. It showed Ahsoka's stealth-like abilities, because a lot of the stuff that we didn't really see in Clone Wars. We know that she was agile and evasiveness, but like, for example, I don't know how many of your followers play Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, the mobile game.
I'm sure
Ahsoka's,
a lot of them do. I've heard a lot of comments about it.
I, I'm a big into that game, and Ahsoka's one of her, like the Padawan Ahsoka, her main ability is evasiveness. Then your Rebels Ahsoka is when she attacks once, she gains a automatic dodge. Um, and it just really showed that evasiveness that that game even tries to get more into, outside of like more mainstream is why I'm going there. Because I know that if you read the books, you know that she's evasive as can be. But
Mhm.
when it comes to mainstream, anybody has it, you don't really
Yeah.
see it too often. I loved how they showed just almost teleporting from place to place.
Yeah. And so going off that with the opening, I thought this was when I first played it, I was a little kind of shocked that this is how it opened. Not just because it opened right away with Ahsoka, but also because it was a different opening than any of the other episodes so far. We usually begin off with a shot of Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, who we now know his name. We'll get into later, and it usually shows them going to a new world, a new city, a new planet, whatever. And that's how every episode has begun since the start of this series. But this one started in the woods, a very darker tone, which I really loved because last episode we heard that they were going to go to a forest planet of Corvus, and I think everyone was thinking it was going to be this lush, beautiful, thriving, force-filled world that was nice and
Yeah.
green, and then they completely hit sideswipe you, and it's a dying planet, and there's destruction. There's old members of the Empire there, and there's a lot of bad things going on, and so that must be why Ahsoka's there, is to try and bring some order to it in some way. So I thought that was a great intro for this, and then of course we see our classic Ahsoka Tano, and it was really nice to see her. How did you feel about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka and her portrayal?
Couldn't have been a better actress if you ask me.
I totally agree.
She really embodied it. The only thing that could have been better is if it was, cannot think of her name all of a sudden. I had it in my head, but the original voice actor. The only way it would have been better is if they had
Ashley
her lip
Eckstein.
sync. Yes, that would have been the only way is they lip synced. Like
That would
having
have been
her
cool.
talk. But I feel
Honestly,
like
a
that would
lot
have
of people
worked.
thought that. The I thought she did great too. If there's a nit, it's going to be picked. And I did have one nitpick, and that was her. I'm
The
gonna call it
headdress with her
hair. It was not
which
the wrinkles. Wrinkles were fine. They were just a little shorter than they were in Rebels.
and it's actually not a head her hair, it's actually a headdress. Um
Oh, it
Pretty
is.
sure Ahsoka is not one of the blue creatures such as Alaya, can't think of her last name, the Jedi that
The
we
blue
see.
girl, yeah.
That is basically that alien's version's hair. I'm pretty sure Ahsoka's is a headdress
Okay,
that
so
they,
that's not a part of her.
that's not a part of it, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Now I don't know if I'm speaking canon or legends, but I'm pretty sure it's a headdress that her people give to those that are force sensitive and that are taken to the Jedi. And that's why you don't see too many people with her style, and that's why she's got the band right there. Because that's kind of the fitting, like the liner to have.
Oh, okay. Well, other than that, I mean, her look was it was great. Her movements were just as Ahsoka. The cadence in her voice was done very well. I really believed it was an older version of this character that we know, and
Yep.
I thought Rosario did a great job. I can't think of anyone else who could have done it better. The eyes is what sells it for me. The makeup was done really well, and overall, I really hope we get to see more of her. I doubt it'll be in this season, honestly, but I really want to see more of her in the
I think
future.
I think we do just because the way the last season ended, everybody, the band got back together. And try not to go further in because I know that we were talking about discussing this later on. But we got the band back together, and I really think that we're going to see the same thing happen again because you can't have Bo-Katan in one episode and then Ahsoka and not have that reunion with how much we saw them in Rebels and in Clone Wars, especially the final
Yeah.
season of Clone Wars, how they were basically teaming up. There's no way we don't see them back together. If we don't see them back together, that is a missed opportunity completely.
Very true. Let's get into the story of this one a little bit more. Sticking with Ahsoka, she did say something that I found a little interesting. When she meets the child and gets to know him a little bit, um, she mentioned to Jin that she's not going to train him, and I thought that was interesting because, well, one, because she didn't deny the fact that she was a Jedi. And
Yep.
last time we'd seen her, she did deny that she was a Jedi. So, starting off with the whole idea of her being a Jedi, I'm a little confused as to what her thought process is on who she is. Did that say anything to you when
It
that happened?
really, like, I kept waiting for her to say, I can't train him because I'm not a Jedi. I kept
Right.
waiting for it. I wanted a true reason. I either wanted her to hop on the ship with Din at the end and the child. Don't want to say the name just yet because we're not. But I really wanted them to get on the ship, but I wanted that explanation. I wanted her to say, I'm not a Jedi because Rebels is the in timeline is the most recent time we've heard her say she's not a Jedi. She told Ezra and Kanan that, but she didn't say it here. And I still believe she firmly says she's not a Jedi, but it's just she can train people in the Force. And when she was saying he's too attached to you, I felt that that was the callback of her kind of saying I'm not a Jedi, but Din doesn't know any better. Din sees lightsabers and her floating in rock
Right.
and things like
Right.
that. So to him, he would probably think of Sith as a Jedi, but and maybe it's one of those things that you just Ahsoka didn't want to explain that, maybe.
So for those of you
But
who aren't familiar with like Ahsoka's background, she when we say she's not a Jedi, that doesn't mean she was a Sith. She definitely embraces and serves the light side of the Force. There's no doubt to that. But while she embraces the light side, she's also remaining unbound by the traditions of the Jedi Order. And that's also why she has those white lightsabers. Dave Filoni says that she's in an interesting position, and those white sabers kind of reflect how she's neither a Sith nor a Jedi, and she's somewhere in between, and she's her own
she's
thing.
actually further light than anyone is.
She's what?
She's further light than anyone. She's further on the light side of the Force than anyone is.
I agree.
Reason being is, if you remember, the daughter from that one episode, the father, son, and daughter,
Hmm.
where you had the son was the darkest side of the Force possible, the daughter was the lightest side of the Force, and the father was the gray in the middle, holding balance, which theoretically spins off everything that happens after anything.
Right.
Um, but we're not talking about that. If you remember, though, the daughter sacrificed herself to keep Ahsoka alive, and then the daughter became the owl. The owl was in the episode. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh yeah, that was the
There's an
first
owl,
thing I noticed.
and so it's almost she's she is the full embodiment of the light side. It's just she steps away from the Jedi Order because she was trained and they didn't believe her, and then kind of saw the things that Anakin was against, but she went a different way with the way that she handled it.
Right. So the owl, uh, I actually love that little Easter egg in there. The actual species of it is a bird called a convor, and her name is Morai. And yeah, it's the spiritual life essence, so to say, of that daughter figure, which I'll actually be doing another episode about Morai and Ahsoka later this week, guys. So check that out. It'll be coming on Wednesday. And yeah, so she accompanies Ahsoka Tano, and Ahsoka says at some point in Rebels, I think, that she kind of owes the convor her life. So they're kind of inseparable. And I was really glad to see Morai was in this too. And
Yeah,
I mean that's kind of it about Ahsoka. I just loved seeing her there. Let's talk about her interaction with the child who we now know as Grogu. What do you think about the name Grogu?
perfectly fine. It sticks to kind of the two syllables that we know from whatever species this is, because you
Right.
have Yaddle, Yoda, Goku. I was kind of hoping to stick with the Y's. I'm not going to lie, but I'm just glad that we finally have a name. Um, but it the when Din said Grogu, I just loved the love in the child's eyes, looking back at him in the way that all of a sudden now I was like, yeah, you're actually talking to me, not kid or
Right.
something like that.
Right, just building on that relationship even more. And he was so happy when he finally said his name. Is like when your dog hears you like say the words, "You want to go on a walk or a car ride or whatever." He just lit up, and I
Head
love
tilt,
that.
big eyes.
Exactly. Um, but we finally got a little bit more of the Force in this episode, which is really good to see. That's kind of why I'm in with this series, is the whole Force aspect into it. So this goes back into what I brought up with Ahsoka saying she won't train the boy, Grogu. Now, this was kind of it reminded me a lot of um them saying they wouldn't train Anakin
Yep.
because they sense much fear in him, which is also what she said here. So this leads me to think that, well, we have already seen Grogu do some kind of bad things, but in self-defense, showing from his attachment to Din Djarin, situations such as choking Cara Dune or, you know, lifting up the Mudhorn. And so this leads me to believe that because of his attachment to Jin, it goes with my theory still thinking that I'm thinking they're going to be separated. And I think Grogu is going to do something really evil real soon. Either killing somebody or something to that level, just something that's very diabolical and that's going to make it so that when he was eating eggs looked like nothing.
He attempted to kill Cara Dune, if you remember, because
Wait,
Cara
wait,
Dune and
say that again. You cut out for a second.
if you remember, he attempted to kill Cara Dune last season.
Hmm.
He started choking her. He did the force choke, seeing a little baby do the, but and then Mando had to stop it. And I just thought about this. The one thing I don't like about the name is I think I was saying Groku because like Goku. So I think that's what going to be my one issue with it is I'm going to mix those up till we hear it enough.
Maybe
Because
in
I think I
his
said
last
it a couple
life
times.
he was, you know, he went Super Saiyan. I mean, that's why he likes the ball so much.
He needs
So
all whatever.
yeah, that would be a great crossover. So with on this topic, uh, there was a theory suggested out there that I heard. I'm sure you heard as well that, what if, considering his age and his sensibility to the Mandalorian and his sense of fear, the theory was that he could be a dyad to Anakin Skywalker. Did you hear that at all?
Yeah, I've heard that, but there's still a 5 year difference.
Oh,
But
there
again,
is.
we don't know that. Yeah, there's still a 5 year difference where Grogu is 5 years older, I believe, based
Oh,
on what
okay.
we know. Yeah, so it's still I could see it, but
Or was Ray and Kylo the same age?
that we don't know, unfortunately. And I was
Yeah, I have
just
no
about to bring
idea.
that was ever really confirmed. So I don't know if age matters to dyads. Could not. We don't know enough about it.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to think about. I don't think they're going to
and
reintroduce the dyad thing, but
and the way that I view the chosen one is the chosen one should be the complete embodiment. There shouldn't be a dyad.
100%.
That,
I'm right there with you.
that's what I believe. I believe that a dyad can be something so rare and make somebody so powerful if you connect with your dyad. But I don't. I believe the chosen one is almost supposed to be a dyad with themselves that they can unlock within themselves. That's just my viewpoint. If you're going to say the chosen one, you don't need somebody else to be the chosen one.
100%. And uh, another thing about Grogu, what I really loved, and this reflects the overall storyline. It reintroduced that piece to that lever, the little ball at the top of it, and that's how the Mandalorian was able to connect with him and teach him to use the Force himself. Now, this brings me to the overall storytelling of not just this episode, but the whole show, and Dave Filoni as a director. For those of you listening, Dave Filoni obviously wrote and directed this episode, and I think he's really growing in his filmmaking capabilities as far as a live action director. Bringing back that ball into this story, I thought was just good, really good storytelling.
Yep.
He was playing with it at the beginning, which when I saw it again, I was like, oh, I love that they keep showing that he just loves this toy or whatever. But then they made it means something a whole lot more by reintroducing it when they were doing the training scene or whatever. And I don't know. And this episode was, Dave Filoni is his third episode he's directed of live action at all, and I think you can definitely see improvements in his talents. I think he's doing a great job, and I didn't say this last season, but now I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to direct next. Did you think
Yeah.
anything about, watching his directorial?
I I think everything that he did, like just his improvement as a live action um, director and storyteller, has been getting better and better each time. I know that he's overseeing basically this whole project, but like the one thing I will say is it's a clear cut difference between the budget for this episode and previous episodes.
Oh yeah.
Like it was other episodes were like, here's $5, and then for him it was here's 100. So I will say that where it's like you did have a clear dollar difference in the quality of the episodes.
For sure. Um, so okay, well let's continue the path of Dave Filoni and move into kind of the last reveal that we got of this episode. So Dave
Called me
Filoni
about that
is
one. Keep my theory going. He called me like yeah, midsummer, just the hey Dean, where's your head at? Where do you want us to go with this? It's just
obviously.
you're up.
So Dave Filoni keeps introducing a lot of old legacy characters of his, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, now one more. Now I tell you, when this name was dropped, I never said the F word louder by myself watching a TV show in my life. The last thing I expected to hear, uh, it was Thrawn, and it blew me away. I felt so rewarded as a Star Wars fan, not just because it was like fan service, but from I've read every Thrawn book, every Heir to the Empire book, and I've watched Rebels, and I felt like, oh my God, I feel so proud that I read everything, and this is the reward that I actually get to see it in live action. Something I never thought I would see. Ahsoka too, but Thrawn seemed like a longer far cry for me. What were
Yeah.
your thoughts when
And
you
then
heard Thrawn?
I think I texted you, holy
Yeah.
as said theory literally could be coming true. Because there's a little bit more to unpack than just Thrawn.
So
Because
recap your theory for anyone who hasn't heard it in the past, because
so
everyone Dean called it.
my theory is like Han and I talked about this like back in summer. My theory is basically they are trying to bring Clone Wars and Rebels back to life, and this is actually going to be a search. Mandalorian is actually the search for Ezra. At the end of the day, just a quick little high level. That's what this is. And the only reason Ahsoka would care where Thrawn is because the last place we saw Thrawn was Ezra and Thrawn going off with the whales, with those hyper drive whales. And that's the last place we saw him. And then you know that Ahsoka's only there on this planet to fight. Why can't I think of the name all of a sudden? But to basically get the information, where is your leader from her? And the only reason she would care where Thrawn is Ezra. And that's why I also mentioned earlier in this episode, we know that Sabine and Ahsoka got separated somewhere, somehow. Don't know why, because the last place we saw Sabine and Ahsoka was going off to find Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we are finding Ahsoka fighting just to find out where Thrawn is. And then also the call out to, I think Ezra is go to this planet at the top of the Jedi Temple. Grogu will basically connect with the Force, and some other Jedi will hear it call out. Who are we going to see there? Are we going to see Luke, or are we going to see Ezra? And that's right. I think that was an instant. I don't think Luke's even pictured there. I don't think Mace Windu's pictured there. I think that is just here's my entrance for Ezra now. Like I really think that's all that is.
I'd like to throw one other possibility at you. I don't think it's Luke. I definitely don't think it's Luke. Not Mace. I think it could be Ezra, or it could be Cal Kestis from the Jedi Fallen
I would love
Order
that too.
video game.
I would love Cal. That'd be a good mix. It
I think
could
that would be
also
great.
be, if you think about just bringing up Fallen Order, Yaddle could have been who saved Baby Yoda.
Yep,
Because
definitely.
if you remember, I can't think of the pilot's name, but he said the little green guy. And then they go, "You
Oh,
mean
in
Master?"
Fallen Order? Yeah.
Yeah, Fallen Order. He goes, "You mean Master Yoda? Yeah, he was a legend. No, not Yoda, but Yaddle." And
Yeah.
then like I thought it was just a joke, and then all of a sudden tying this together, it could be Yaddle was the one who could be Grogu's mother. Could
You're
be.
right.
We don't.
And Yoda could be the father because did you see the way he looked at Ahsoka when she said the word Yoda?
But we could look at it as Yoda was the master though,
Right.
because been trained many masters. But no, I do agree with that. It could be. But the thing about Yoda though is one of the things about Jedi is celibacy, and Yoda is in Obi-Wan, even though Obi-Wan almost strayed away from that. They are the probably the and Mace Windu. They are the most probably true to the Jedi code that there is.
Yeah.
So I just don't see them breaking that,
I
and that's
definitely
my
don't
only.
think Yoda's the daddy.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely some kind of association.
there's some
Uh,
type of connection. Maybe Uncle. Well, we can go Uncle Yoda
yeah. Um, I do think Yoda in some way will return back into the series at some point. So
as a force.
yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, they're going. He's been quested with a new objective, right? To go to this temple, and it's Tython. Is that where they're going?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
so if I remember correctly, Tython is the um where the Jedi Order established their new headquarters after Coruscant got raided from Order 66. Is that correct?
Yeah. I believe so.
Okay, so and I think
No,
I've seen. Sorry.
Titan is the birthplace of the Jedi,
Oh, it's the birthplace.
birthplace of the Jedi Order.
Okay, I do know I've seen a picture of it before. I don't know if it was a book or some YouTube video. I don't know, but it's a small temple. But I'll be very interested to see now. Do you think we're gonna see it next episode, or do you think they're gonna do that thing where they're gonna skip an episode and it'll be the next one after?
I think next episode is Boba.
Ooh,
That,
tell
that
me
that's
more.
where my head. They're gonna do an in between episode, just like you're saying. Kind of like how the band back together, the previous episode that obviously was just filler because in the beginning I forgot to mention this. When they did the recap, they never mentioned last episode.
I didn't watch the recap. That's funny
They
though.
gave a this was 2 episodes ago that they cared about the recap. Last
Right.
episode they didn't say anything, and I was like, okay, so that confirms that. Okay, so I think this is gonna be a filler episode coming up, but I think it's gonna be more meaningful than the last episode. Like, yeah, it was cool seeing the old gang back together, but it was just one of those, um, just that one was boring. This one's gonna be, I want my armor back, and it's gonna be, you're not a Mandalorian.
That would be great. Okay, this leads me into a question I had. This will actually be the last thing we talk about here. This is the thought I want to leave everybody with who's listening, and that is with this season has gone of the path of what I think its title implies is the most important part of the show, which is the Mandalorian, or at least the first season. And in the first season, we learned about Din Djarin's character beliefs, his childhood, his personal disposition in life. And while Din is still an essential part of the plot of the show in returning Grogu to his people, does introducing all these pre-existing characters and these new story elements and all these new lore tie-ins with other Star Wars movies like possibly Snoke, does this lessen the value of the Mandalorian as a character in this series? I'm concerned we're getting introduced to all these new characters, ones we know, ones we don't know, whole new storylines. This could go in multiple different directions that we're following. And I'm concerned this show isn't going to be what it was said it was going to be about the Mandalorian, because I feel like we're losing a part of Din Djarin as a character so far.
You've
How do you
already
feel?
heard my point, like my view of it, just from over the summer and kind of my theory right there. I don't think this was ever about Mandalorian. I think it was about um just it's always been about the child. It's just the Mandalorian having Boba Fett's armor there was going to get people excited. I think they dangled a carrot in front of us, but they're using the Mando to move the story. And again, I truly do believe Sabine's going to be, and this is another part of my theory for everybody. Sabine is going to be the Mandalorian that ends up finding Ezra with the child. I think that there will be separation, and I think it'll be a permanent separation at some point from Din and Grogu. But I do agree with you; it is taking away from Pedro's character. I think, but I also think that he asked for it based off the offset rumors.
Yeah, I mean,
It,
because like when I saw at the end of this episode, Ahsoka was saying goodbye, I was like, I, d- I'm not, I don't want to go continue this with Mando. I want to go with Mando and
yeah,
Ahsoka, and
yeah.
I'm worried that going forward, I'm gonna feel that way more. Like, oh, now I want Thrawn. Why am I still hanging out with this dude? Like,
I really think that they're going to do a twist, and because the Mandalorian is not a person, it's a tribe. It's not
yeah,
going to be um, like the Rogue One spinoff, how it's going to be named. Why am I forgetting his name now?
Cassian.
Cassian, thank you. It's not going to like that is going to be called Cassian. We know who we're getting there.
Right.
Like that is spelled out. Like, but and then when it comes to Obi-Wan, we know who we're getting. This was purposeful named, and they are retconning and fixing a bunch of things that Star Wars fans were upset about with the sequels. They they are answering those questions that made people angry, and I think that's what the show has become. I think they have figured out that people like this show. They were retconning things in the first season. It just wasn't as obvious. Now it's like, okay, y'all like this, and y'all didn't really notice we were doing these parts. Now look at this, and I really think that that's what this show is becoming, which I have no issues with.
Yeah.
But I really do believe Pedro will be, if the onset rumors are true, Pedro will be gone. There will be a new Mandalorian because they can get away with it. Just as I told you over the phone forever ago, they can just say, I know Boba's not a Mandalorian, but everybody thinks he is. They could easily say Boba's the new Mando. They really could if they wanted to.
And I can honestly see all that as a possibility. Up until that point, I'm totally still on board, guys. So don't think that I'm like I'm not into it anymore. I'm totally still here. I can't wait to see what happens and what plays out going forward. That's it for today's show, everybody. Dean, where can everybody find your social media and plug your channel one more time?
You can find me on Twitter at SwitchDean, which I could change the name to because the YouTube channel. But
Yeah.
the YouTube channel will be called The Four-Legged Gamer. And as I said, the first video should be uploaded probably around next week. Just waiting for my profile picture on YouTube, and then that first video will be uploaded.
Hell yeah. Again, the links will be in the description, guys. Please go check it out. Later this week, we are having an episode all about everything you need to know about Ahsoka Tano, everything you need to know about Bo Katan. And I'm also being joined by Sith Talkers this week. We are doing a look back at season one and going over some of the best moments of The Mandalorian from season one. So be sure to stay tuned and check that out later. Thank you guys again. Tune in next week for Mando Talk Show. We'll be talking about next week's episode, or I'm sorry, this week's episode of The Mandalorian. So until then, may the force be with you guys. Later.